Now, if you've been hearing that beeping of metal detectors a little bit more often recently, there may be good reason. The British Museum says there's been a record number of finds recently, with Lincolnshire proving one of the country's best treasure troves. Here's our reporter, Crispin Rolfe.
It's a hobby on the rise. Metal detecting.
Lincolnshire's got one of the biggest and best histories going. I mean, we've got the A1 that runs alongside most of it. We've got the A15, both Roman roads. And then you've got the Humber Estuary just in front of me. The Vikings sailed up here to, sack Gainsborough.
Yes, according to a new survey by the British Museum, Lincolnshire's in the top 3 of places to go hunting for history. So, Paul, these are finds you found in Lincolnshire?
Yep, every single one of them, right from Roman coins, 2nd, 3rd century, silver coins from kings I didn't even know existed. There's, about 1,700 years worth of history there in my hand.
The most fearless men in the home counties are back.
And of course, this is a hobby that's never been so popular.
We are now a highly efficient unit of elite detectorists.
Though it turns out that the rivalries of a fictional TV comedy are sometimes played out
What you got?
in real life.
Ring pull?
There must be a bit of competition out there when you're all working a field together.
It's not even that. Even when me and my other half were out detecting, if I walk up to her smiling, she's like, "What you found?"
Aren't you supposed to be pleased for each other?
All's fair in love and war.
Hi, it's Lucy and Ellie, and welcome to our 2024 Roman Found Rewind.
And it's not just in the fields that metal detecting is big. There's a significant following online, with content creators like Ellie and Lucy from Lincoln.
Gee, look at that.
All history geeks at heart, aren't we?
Yeah.
We all get excited about a good find and a good story.
So that's why we started Roman Found. We're sort of on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube.
It's a platform out there. You know
Yeah, we're on it.
Of course, if you do find something special, you have to declare it. Nonetheless, it looks like Lincolnshire is the place to be.
When you get that find out the hole, 9 out of 10 times, it's a rusty nail, it's a ring pull. But every now and again you'll come up with a bit of silver or, if you're very lucky, a bit of gold.
Crispin Rolfe, BBC News.
Joining me now with his very own discoveries, the metal detectorist George Ridgway. George, morning, and you brought in some really cool stuff, and we'll get onto that in a minute. What I really like, first of all, though, you don't call this about, going out with your metal detector. You call this history hunting, and that's such a lovely way of looking at it, because this is our history, isn't it, that you find?
Exactly right. So obviously metal detecting is a big part of what I do, but even like when I was younger, I got into fossil hunting, and that's when I really first became passionate about history. And it was really when I learnt that we had a Roman road which adjoins our farm in Suffolk. And I remember when I was younger, I used to stand on the road and just imagine all these soldiers walking along it. And I used to dream of finding like buckles and coins they might have lost. And we actually have a few finds here which I can go through at some point.
There's loads of stuff here.
Yeah.
So explain what we're looking at here.
Right, so for instance, this right here.
Yep.
Now you might have seen this before on the telly. So this is a Roman signet ring right here.
Yeah.
If I give that to you to hold.
Yeah, do you want me to hold that up
sure.
and then you can have a look? Wow.
And it has a wonderful turquoise gemstone in the centre. And if you look at it, you can see there's a figure engraved there.
Yeah, there is.
Now, that figure is holding a club. And we know who it actually is because this is Hercules. So Hercules was, of course, born a demigod, with his father being Zeus, king of the gods, and his mother being Alcmene, a mortal woman who was renowned for her beauty. Now, for Roman soldiers, many thought he was actually an inspiring figure, so it's quite likely that this was found to be belonging to a Roman soldier, which is wonderful.
How do you piece together the history of something like this? I should say as well, I should have cleaned my fingernails if I'd known we were going to do this, but how do you piece together the history for something like this?
Yeah, I mean, you obviously have to do your research, you work out who the figure is, how they're portrayed on the design, and it's actually lovely because when you realise that who might have been portrayed on it, it's just, you think, wow, that's actually Hercules, and you think about who last wore it, for instance, it's brilliant.
And what's interesting too is you manage to find stuff in places that have already been checked. So, someone might say, oh, that's, people have been in that field already, there's nothing else to find there, and you still manage to find amazing stuff. Is that because it's been churned up by farm machinery, maybe?
There's that as well. Metal detectors have also become more powerful.
Oh, OK.
And if you really know what you're doing with your detector, you can sort of manipulate the settings.
Right.
So, for instance, a few finds here. Now, this is lovely. So this came from a site which was excavated by Basil Brown. Now, Basil Brown is, of course, the archaeologist and excavator who excavated Sutton Hoo.
Right.
Now, here...
Do you want me to hold this one up as well?
That,
yeah,
please.
Thanks.
Now, it's known as a Laten Type 3 brooch.
OK.
And it dates to the Iron Age period, so before the Romans.
Wow.
Now, this was found on a farm. When I went to the farm worker, he said to me, oh, yeah, you won't find anything here. It's been searched for 3 decades by 3 dedicated metal detectorists. Well, of course, I saw that as a bit of a challenge, and I've actually proven that this site has been anything but searched
and this
out.
is that proof.
This is one of those.
So what's incredible as well, so, you know, it's a decent size, but, you know, you might miss it. Talk to me about this thing here. This is exciting.
This came from the same field as well.
OK.
Now, this is known as a Roman terror ring, and I'll give this to you because you can actually feel the weight of it.
How heavy this is.
Quite extraordinary.
Oh, it is. You're right.
Now, this was a rain guide, so it had been fixed to the yoke of a chariot.
So reins, as in the horse's reins?
Exactly right. Yeah. So you'd had a leather strap through there, from the horse to the charioteer, and it was actually used to control the chariot.
Wow. And then again, you can piece it, because I guess you can look at designs and sort of work out where it was and where it would have belonged. And what else did you find in the field? Because, I mean, these are big chunks that you might imagine would have been found already.
So it's quite interesting. Yesterday, I was actually doing a new podcast I've started. It's called The Land Rovers, a history hunting podcast.
Right.
And I was on the field yesterday with my friend Paul, and we actually found Roman coins and more Roman brooches on a site which has been worked out so many times.
And clarify this for me. So if you make a discovery like that, who really owns it? Because some of this stuff will end up in a museum, but who owns the right to the stuff that you find?
So with any finds that I find, it's really important to take it to your finds liaison officer, so the archaeologist, and they can obviously record it.
Yeah.
If a museum's interested in it, if it's declared treasure, for instance, then they have the option to acquire it.
OK.
But for instance, this wasn't declared treasure, so this was returned to us, and the landowner and I just decided, what we'd like to do with it, and I actually bought it off him.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
And I mean, is there value to some of this stuff as well?
I mean, some things are valuable, most things you find aren't valuable at all, for instance. So we have a lovely Roman coin here. Now, bearing in mind, I found 2 Roman hoards, and so many rare Roman coins in that hoard, it was unbelievable. Now, this is known as a sestertius.
OK.
Now, this is a chunky brass Roman coin, and it was struck under the Emperor Marcus Aurelius.
Oh, wow.
So if you've seen Gladiator, the first Gladiator, exactly right, yeah. Now, really, this coin isn't worth anything in today's money. Yeah. But we know from records at Pompeii that with 1 sestertii, you could buy 4 pounds of bread. With 15 of those, you could buy a tunica, which is basically typical working attire for Roman men and based on Greek design.
That's incredible.
And with 500, you could buy a donkey. Now, really, for me, this coin is actually, it's priceless for me because I spent a year searching for my first Roman coin.
George, that is fascinating to see. Thank you so much for bringing these in. I'm going to put that back before I drop it or do anything.
No problem at all.
But thank you so much. Really nice to see you. George Ridgway.